Okay, last one. This game I actually really want to look at with the engine because there are multiple things that I want to see. I played as white, where me and my opponents both have 2.5 out of 5, which is 50%, which is still good, and I get white for the end game. My opponent is a kid that's played in I believe played next to me in round 4, where I got into this position. Well, we both basically got into this position, and my opponent played this, and his opponent played this, and he got crushed, and I crushed. So yeah, I did remember that. But this time I'm playing white. And I play e4 again, so we don't get into that position. I really wanted to, actually. I genuinely considered going for a Nimzo Indian again, but just because I knew that my opponent did not have a good result with it in round 4. But yeah, doesn't matter. I mean, apparently we talked about it, and they actually, or we talked about it, but they actually, at the end of the game, they actually mentioned how to play the opening, which they've screwed up at some point, and got into a worse position. And I actually also knew that, so knew the line. So yeah, apparently they do too. So I just played e4, and we got into d6, which I think is correct. Knight f6, knight c3, and g6, which is a dragon. A normal dragon, non-accelerated dragon. And here I randomly talked to someone about the dragon during this tournament, a friend of mine, because I had a dragon in a previous game. It was round 1. I played against an accelerated dragon, and I got into a Morochi bind position. And what they basically said is that the accelerated dragon and the dragon both create issues. The accelerated dragon allows you to play the Morochi bind, and the normal dragon allows you to play the Yugoslav attack, which is this. So I did that. Knight c3, g6, and I just played f3 here, which is apparently not main line. Probably should play bishop e2 or something, or bishop c4. F3 makes a lot of sense to me as well. Bishop e2 or e3, bishop d7, which is a bit weird, but I guess it's okay. Queen d2 and knight c6, and I castled long, and my opponent castled short. And now we basically start attacking like this. And I played h4 first, which I think is modern. In more modern variations, it's more preferred over g4 first, I guess. My opponent plays h5, and which prevents my main attack, but it's totally fine. Here I decided I wanted to play bishop h6. However, I did not. Bishop h6 here doesn't work due to knight takes d4 and losing a piece here. I believe you. Wait, I do wanna, with the engine, check this, because I assume I looked at this for a second, and apparently it is totally fine. But yeah, I didn't play bishop h6. I took here first. Pawn takes. So opens up the b file because my opponent will attack there. Bishop h6. And rook b8. To just ignore it, because that's what you're supposed to do. I developed my bishop to c4. Here my opponent played a very weird move to me. they played c5, which basically just gives me knight d5 in some lines. But they said that it was also to prevent... Oh yeah, it was to prevent knight a4 after queen b6. Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense, but I still rather not. Here I think I made a mistake. Now I would play g4 here. Now that I thought about it for a bit, I played g4, and the point is that actually what I want to do, if they don't take, I'm not going to take ever on h5. I'm going to, let's say this b3, and they have to find some move here. Let's say a5, that makes sense to me. I would take here and play g5, and then the knight needs to run. I think this is the best square for it, and then I plant my knight on d5, which currently forces queen d8 because e7 is hanging, and I should be better here. Yeah, definitely. That was my plan. That was kind of my plan, but I screwed up the move order. I took on g6 first, g7 first, king takes g7, and then played g4. And after queen b6 and b3, they decided to just take on g4. And I talked with my opponent afterwards, and they were shocked by the move h5, which usually in these types of positions, if you take on g4 and get h5, it's usually +2.5 to +3. And my opponent has never seen it, so even in this line, I would have assumed that my opponent would take the pawn and this, and then be crushed. I'm fairly certain this is terrible. Yeah, +2.9, +3. Yeah, this is dead. Because now, in this variation, I can take here and get queen h6 immediately, which is... that will definitely help out. E5. That's it, yeah. It's all just terrible for my opponent. But this is probably a lot less bad, because they just barely get rook h8. And I decided after this, I really didn't see it anymore. I didn't see a plan. I think I would have played queen g5 here. I didn't do any of this, by the way. I mean, there's really just nothing here. So instead, I decided to be inspired by a different game of mine and play h6 check. There are 3 moves. You can't ever take the pawn, obviously. And I think my opponent played the only move that is even remotely playable, which is king h7. I think the other 2 are just losing. This would be the second move, but I now always get h6, and there's nothing you can do. And then get to g7, and then something, probably. And after this, then it's just worse, because you can't even save the rook. You're not fast enough with the king. And then I'd make a new queen or something and then win easily. Yeah, this +6. But yeah, but this also is interesting because I win the f7 pawn here. Which I saw in advance, obviously. Where are we? There we are. Yeah. Here I assumed that rook bf8 would happen, and my alternative would be bishop e8. But just because I might want to sack here and bishop e8 prevents that, but they played rook f8, rook bf8, which I assumed would happen. So now here, maybe next move is the critical move, but here is already critical enough, I think. How to proceed from here. I want to eventually be able to take back here and keep this pawn, because in that case I can play g5 and I'll definitely be winning. But I could not build a route to do that. I did try quite a bit. I played knight d5, which basically forces a trade because I attack here and here. Also very interesting if they just ignore it and do this. Actually, let's say do this, because I want to take this. I can sack here and take that, and that seems... could take here. I think I'd... yeah, probably just take here. I think this is probably just dead. Maybe I should play... it's okay. Apparently this is just barely okay. But yeah, I think they're forced to take. And any other move is plus 1.8, yeah. I take on on f6 and then on... yeah, makes sense. So they just took. That makes total sense to me. It was the only move according to the engine. And here I don't like what I did in the end. I took with the queen. And now I'm very close to getting what I want. I am kind of putting pressure still and maybe want to sack here still. If my opponent does nothing, I'll do this and sack here, maybe sack here. I think I'll do totally fine if they do nothing, but they play queen c6. So how do you trade queens? Because you can't prevent it. Because the only square I can go to is here. And they can just... I mean, I can make a draw here if I want. And my opponent said that they would have accepted that draw. Which is kind of sad, because I will go on to lose this game. Spoilers. But... yeah, where do you trade, really? Especially since the bishop is always hanging. I really wanted to take here. But then the bishop, in this case the bishop takes back. So if I took here, take here, and the bishop goes to h5, and now I'm going to lose h6 and be down a pawn for the rest of the game. I didn't like that. That didn't happen though. I found a way to not lose a pawn here. Which was first queen c4, queen b5, and then I played the move e5. And now I win these 2 pawns for my e-pawn. So take, bishop c6 in between. I had bishop d5 planned here, and I assumed that in the end... what I actually assumed is, and miscalculated, is that this is actually... I assumed that this would be very scary for my opponent, because there's also a lot of mate threats. So they can't actually take this pawn. That's what I assumed. But when they took and did this, I am threatening basically to win a rook here. But they just played rook f7 and now I'm losing. Yeah, I'm just losing here. Yeah, rook d5 was... Here I started tanking because I completely missed that I'm just losing this endgame. Yeah, there is actually a serious threat here, by the way. So if I do this, then the only two moves are this, and this loses rook, of course, and this is just checkmate. So, yeah, but rook f7, and I should have played rook d5, makes it a lot harder than what I did. I played rook c6, and like, this pawn just runs, and the rooks, I assumed the rooks would be very uncoordinated, but that's also not really an issue. A couple moves later I just resign. It's, yeah, terrible game. Or terrible endgame. So yeah, let's see how I did. Main line, stuff. Yeah, this is all still fine. G4 apparently. Engine really wants to play H4 and G4. And in every case, Bishop H6 is fine. Bishop C5. That's a bad move, of course. Apparently trading is still fine. G4 is good. B3. Take. H5 is still very winning. I assumed so. I didn't expect it to be as winning as with the bishops on the board, but it's... yeah. Queen G5 here. I guess so. Is this just a pawn sack? Yes. I take E7. Queen G5 though, but let's say this and that and that, and then the other knight. Oh, apparently E7. And what if I try to save this bishop? That doesn't work, of course. Here? Oh, then F7. So what if I save it like this? Then I just take on G4 again. And materials equal, and I win a piece due to not having time to save it. Right? Rook D6, yeah, that's just game over. Okay. Queen G5 is the winning move though. But this, King H7. I take the pawn, which is correct still. And here I should just return. Just rook C. Just bishop C4. And what's the point? Just Queen G5 afterwards. And E5 and... yeah, this is just so sad. Knight E4. Oh, that's crazy. Checkmate. Oh, sorry. But you do win the queen. You have to... crazy. But yeah, let's say a normal move here. This is normal enough. And materials equal, but like... okay, now I'm up a pawn. And it's the E7 pawn. Yeah. Okay. Apparently I should just do that and Queen G5, but I played Knight D5 in between. And this, and Queen C6, and now I have to do that, of course, and F takes G4 is still fine, not great. I apparently should just accept the draw. Yeah, F takes G4 is still fine. But that's just... I'm just down a pawn there. I didn't like that. So I tried E5. But this endgame is just very losing. Oh, apparently this is not... sorry, bishop C6 of course in between. And yeah, I could probably sack the exchange here. That was an option. It's probably the better option, because I win it back. Yeah, I guess so. This is a draw. And it's even like worse for me slightly. It's I need to show that this is a draw actually. But yeah. Apparently bishop c6 wasn't even accurate. Yeah. Now it's just everything's bad. Because of rook f7, which I missed from a distance. Yeah, game is just over. Actually, I did this, and the game continues for another 8 moves. But I don't really want to look at that because this is just all terrible. There was an interesting line somewhere where I got this, and this pawn managed to get all the way to g2, and then I play rook e1, which doesn't work, but it was really close to working. The only way to actually I mean, I already won a rook in this variation. They basically just ignored me taking a rook to get to g2 with their pawn in that variation. But this doesn't work because of take and rook f1. But yeah, I very much assumed that I was winning here after h5. And it's really painful to actually lose this. But I do learn from this, and this is apparently just fine. I mean, it's good, because I win e7. And yeah. But yeah. That's the last one. I ended 2.5 out of 6, which is the exact same score I got last time I played this tournament, where I started off very poorly and got 1.5 in the last 2 matches. Basically playing what someone in the tournament referred to as the Swiss Gambit. By losing your first couple of games and getting weaker opponents in a Swiss tournament setting. Which I thought was really funny. I still think it's really funny. And the day after they said it, I saw them, the same person, playing a game, and I basically remembered it and started laughing again. So I really think it's funny. But yeah, Swiss Gambit, I'll do that in the next tournament. I did that in my previous tournament as well that I played in January, where I lost the first 2 and then won 4 in a row to get a prize. So yeah, Swiss Gambit, it does work. But yeah, this is the last one of the tournament, and yeah, I'll see you at some point. There will be I'll probably do some stuff. We'll see. See you there.